My name's Tom. I served with the 101st Airborne Division, the United States Army, from 2003 to 2006. I was in Iraq before I was in active duty military for 3 weeks. I just went to Fort Campbell long enough to get my desert issues and left. There was routes that, was inevitable. You knew you were going to get hit. It was just a matter of if you were going to live or if you were going to die. And I got hit with two big mortar rounds in an old hole that, uh, knocked me out. Nothing hit my head physically, but the shock waves didn't stop at one side of my Kevlar and go to the other. It shook my brain around. And I'm not a brain doctor, but if you move it a little bit, you can really mess some things up. It wasn't until after I got out I started having vertigo and a lot of trouble with cognition and sensitivity to light. I'd be driving, if the sun was out or if it was snow, it was like I'd get tunnel vision and almost like a whiteout. And it was starting to scare me a while. And then, other things I found out too, a lot of folks with head injuries will sit with their head tilted to one side, or they'll read with one eye. And, I was doing all of those and just simple tasks where now it was new to me. I didn't see it as a disability. I didn't know what it was. I first enrolled in VA healthcare, I believe it was 2007. I came back with that mentality, drink water and drive on. And I was, let someone else that needs it more than me get the treatment. And that kind of mentality that's all too familiar. My first primary care doctor at the Ann Arbor VA was a retired Marine, fought in Vietnam. He really helped me out, and he recognized the brain injury from the blast, and he spent a lot of time talking with me one-on-one. I was just fortunate enough to come across some very good people, and they introduced me to, brand new shiny Craftsman toolbox that like breathing reiterations. When I first felt, that first breathing treatment, we went through it for a while, and it was, like I said, I was reluctant, but, I felt it. And after time, I got to where I could just, instead of sitting down and trying to get there for 10, 15 minutes, I just tap right in. So a lot of memory stuff, a lot of talking about, your anger and self-talk, a lot of the way things you word things, just 100 small steps to equal to a greater goal at the end. PTS is like a snowflake. It's different on everybody that it touches. But there's a lot of familiar things with vets. It's, a lot of us that were there, had combat MOSs and were outside the wire. It's rockets, mortars, fireworks. It relates a lot to, loud noises. I've learned a lot more about the PTS and, different symptoms that come with it. Is my family knows my triggers, and I don't want them walking on eggshells around me, but, there's little things like my wife announcing before she comes into a room sometimes when she knows I'm high strung, or my service dog, he knows when I'm uneasy and he'll jump up in bed and rest his head on my chest. You have to be able to look into yourself and know, yeah, I am having issues. And I can guarantee without a doubt, if they go untreated, they're going to just keep piling up on one another. Our country's always stood behind and willing to take care of our folks coming home. Whether it's a VA, civilian sector, there's groups out there. You just have to find a good support network and throw all your issues on the table and just be open and minded enough to let the professionals sort it.